Peace, peace. Give me a second. I literally just went live on Instagram. Not Instagram, on TikTok. And I was just gonna transfer it. But I recognize that a lot of times transferring the messages forces me to have to break them down like into sections and stuff. So I'm gonna basically share the message on here again. Let me get a second. I need some more water, y'all. I love these waters. I hope y'all don't mind. This is Star with the Star Blooms. I'm trying to figure out how can I keep as much of my room out of view as possible. One of my guardians over there in the corner. It's a lot of things I wanted to share, but I've been trying to go by the guidelines of, these platforms which want us to be under certain times and stuff like that. It smells so good. They want us to be under certain times, and it makes it difficult because it's like trying to push a certain amount of information into like a small space, a small allotment of time. And sometimes it's necessary to preserve your energy, especially while you're growing your platform, which is something that I am definitely doing. So if y'all are new here, 231. If y'all are new here, please like, comment, share, subscribe, tell a friend, communicate what you got from it, how it was a confirmation for you, how it might necessarily apply, whatever it is that you feel the need to share, write it down and share it. It's highly appreciated. Get the message out there, allow more people to see my platform, um, because the time we're in, we need to have true, integral people operating in spaces that are actually going within to bring something back versus regurgitating something to be at a steady place of just being repetitive. That's crazy. I love it when I do like the cards to get confirmation. I had already done this, but something told me to just do it again. And I love how these cards actually came with, in addition to some of the cards that came out. That's so crazy. That is so crazy. In addition to some of the cards that came out, and I just shuffled the heck out of these cards. Um, I experienced a spiritual chiropractor, y'all. If you know anything about chiropractors, it's basically almost like realignment. It's a physical plus a spiritual and a mental. They're not necessarily um, as traditional as most, traditional doctors or medicine is concerned. They go towards a different rate of approaching diagnosis. Believe it's like the muscular skeleton. I don't know. It's a certain system in your body. I don't want to lie and say what it is. However, um, what I have been perceiving ever since I had my last miscarriage was the pain in my lower back, y'all. It did not go. It has not gone away. It had been there for so long. And I've been doing a lot of healing for like the last couple of last couple of years, to be honest, if I just encompass all that previous is in representation of, and I'll get to that, and being in acceptance of it, which is what I now understand. In my understanding, I'm capable of representing the truth and the wholeness of it. Um, Going through the channels, operating at a space where I've retrieved the lessons that needed to be retrieved, no longer wanting to bypass certain rates of my shadow or trying to show up in a persona, wanting to mask myself, being in my true authentic self, showing up in whatever it is I fully desire because I'm being in the truthful space and right within myself. I'm allowing myself to be able to actually gain something that I didn't even know well enough to ask for, or even if it was something that could be given, especially at the rate that I receive it, y'all. The way that energy is flowing up and down my body is so amazing. It's almost like my spine has been alive in 606. It's like my spine has been like woken up 422. Spirit is speaking. Um, and there's been an awakening within my vessel. When I sat with it, I basically put it to my ancestors. I had removed my altar because I was going through certain processes and transition, and I was angry. I was upset. I had certain belief based off of what I was experiencing on a physical level that certain things weren't working. Even though I was aware, I just hadn't gotten to the place to where I accepted it fully, right? Um, and it showed up. It showed up in a real way. Based off of how I was basically being in this space. Spirit allowed me to basically just break it down, and I'm going to try to like slow my speech so you'll be able to get how I perceive things internally in my head. Not reading, I'm actually looking at cards. I do sometimes focus off from one space to another. It's just what I do when I channel. Um, it happens when you channel, that's what occurs. Um, okay. I feel like I'm explaining the message instead of sharing the message, but I am sharing it. A lot of the times we believe that on the other side of what it is that we're at is just change, and we become in a space of fear of the unknown. And a lot of the times we don't recognize that the fear that we're perceiving is only the thing that is engaged of and desiring to foreshadow and supersede the path that we are taking. I was allowed to see the person that I was in the decision making that I had been in as previous. I call her previous. The reason why I call her previous is because she had to have representation. I was whole in the spaces where I decided. A lot of the times I recognize things as coming from the past. And a lot of the times, as soon as you say the past, there's either this rate to get over, there's this rate to move on from, there's this rate to learn from. There are so many things that are with it, yet it may not necessarily carry acceptance. And if you move into your now self, a lot of the times your now self has a vision, you know, and a sight that previous may have not necessarily had, yet she was whole in the position that she had taken. I recognize in the experiences that I had previously had, right? I was in wholeness. I love people. So when I chose to show up at a rate of love, I was whole making these decisions. If I seen a relationship that I was aware of, able to actually see the signs, a lot of us are, y'all. We call them red flags. We're giving them. Spirit shows up, showing us the truth about people, who it is that we're dealing with. Yet in our desire to be an experience of whatever it is that we're desiring based off of whatever potential is there in spaces, we allow ourselves to bypass and move in free will. And because 1001, because we are in this space of free will, we have certain allotments that we allow ourselves to garner based off of the positioning we take. However, when we get into this rate where we recognize that we're in this now moment going into the becoming of, right? The new thing, we aren't really present in it because we're desiring sometimes to fast forward to the future of what it is that it will be, what will we become after we make this decision to walk away from the thing that we didn't think that we would previously be in. For me, this year has been, it's a 7 year, so it's been a test, a trial, so to speak, but it's been a shaping and a sharpening within spirit that I was always meant to supersede. I never was going to surrender. I never was going to fall short in it. I was shaken, but I wasn't broken. And even in that space, I still wasn't at a rate to where I fully accepted what previous had chosen because I perceived her decisions to be faulty based off of the judgment that I cast onto them. I only cast these judgments because it's something that we've allowed ourselves to learn to be conditioned in. We say things like, oh, I wish that I wouldn't have made that. So we sit in placement of fear of new choices because we've allowed ourselves to be wrapped and warped in resentment and remorse. And those are bad mates of fear because they have to be present in order for us to be stagnant in the choices and the decisions that we're making, which allows us to show up fragmented, allows us to show up in a space of lack mentality because we believe ourselves to be limited based off of previous decision versus based off of the noun acceptance in our presence, aware of lessons that we have gained in the process of being whole. You know, it sounds crazy to those who may not understand it yet. If we're constantly always dumbing ourselves down to an external factor and not allowing ourselves to fully understand in our body and our vessel, which is what spirit has been teaching me. I had previously learned that understanding was knowledge, and knowledge, you gain information that you may not fully understand, but you have a footing that allows you to be in a certain posture and position. Yet when you get to the rate of understanding, you have power. And I love that space. And spirit allowed me to be at a rate to where it grew deeper with me. And spirit basically said, understanding is the flesh, my love. When you wrap yourself around understanding, you are actually in representation of the performance that you keep within the body and in the vessel. If you aren't willing to fully accept your understanding, you have knowledge that you are rejecting, which puts you in a position of a mentality that allows you to be fragmented. But when you wrap yourself and you accept in the spaces that you've gained understanding, you accept it. Like, I must understand that this thing is true because I have knowledge of it and I've been able to move in this space and I've been empowered at this rate. I've allowed myself to show up in position of something. What happens is you come into contact and in alignment with your inner standing, which is where you take center stage internally, actually as the teacher who is now teaching. It's the awakening of a part of you, an essence of you that is guiding you to be able to be in route of the experience that allows you to have the covering that your soul desires as you are in the space that destiny meets you, integrating the shadow, actually honoring sacred desires, honoring the soul, being in the space of your power, being in awe of you, allowing yourself to be in surrender to spirit and representing the thing that you may have previously rejected based off of judgment due to fear because you wanted to regret or have remorse towards decisions that you may have made because you didn't want to honor the previous you that showed up in whole wholeness, making a decision in the first place. A lot of the times we allow ourselves to be at a rate within ourselves where we want to be confused on why we're going through things. I was sitting in, I labeled it that bitch because a lot of the times you get so frustrated because you believe that people are coming in opposition to you. You know, when you start to wake up at a certain rate, you recognize that a lot of your so-called enemies that you claim, please keep up with me, y'all. Enemies that you claim are people that are closest to you. So you believe people to have been on your team as your enemies. And you've claimed this because of this lack of connection and misalignment by your mislabeling of what you have the ability to understand because you didn't accept what you needed to understand. When you recognize and you get in alignment with your inner self, there's a rate of you that doesn't allow you to mislabel people's purpose and people's position and their posture that they must keep, as they are the momentum to your key that you are carrying, to the steps that you are going to take. Not every place or piece on the board is protected. Not every position that we take is going to basically render us a favorable outcome. Some of them are basically set up to be the thing that catapults us to do the thing that we've been desiring and requiring. Yet we didn't allow ourselves to be at this rate because we may have had, I don't know why I was going to say that. I was going to say we may have had carriers that were placed in position of us due to the fact that we weren't in the willingness to actually perceive ourselves to be whole. Sometimes you may show up on your own board and you are the queen, but you sitting and seated as the pawn. And if you know anything about chess, y'all, you have the pawn, you have the, it doesn't matter. I don't want to go through all the details because I was thinking about the hook or the rook, whatever it's called, how it could go diagonal and how it has the ability to move a lot of spaces, but it's only able to move in a certain direction. When you think about the pawn is literally the line that actually creates the barrier for the queen. Once she starts moving, I'm saying feminine energy because a lot of the times we represent things as an external factor, but it's an internal war because it's happening on the mental plane first. And if you don't recognize this, then you don't actually allow yourself to willingly position yourself to be able to be in the destined space that you are fated for because you are constantly wanting to go at war within your vessel without actually creating pathways of ease and egress, which will keep you blocked, which will sometimes show up 433 in your lower chakras, causing a physical, representation to appear and manifest itself that comes off as pain or some type of condition or disease that you may not necessarily be aware of just due to sometimes even your internal dialogue. Sometimes just due to your mentality and how you want to perceive a certain thing. I had a rate where I wasn't fully aware in my power who I was. So, in the desire to have friendship, I allowed myself to be in awe of others, destined spaces. You see people, pawns on the board, moving, making the first steps. They can possibly, the first steps that they can make, they can actually move two spaces. But after that, any initial additional step that they are able to make without being sacrificed or taken out is going to be one step. If you're the queen, a lot of the times you're going to sit still and allow all of the other places to move according to whatever they need to move to because you are always meant to be protected. You're not meant to be sacrificed, regardless of the fact that you have egress to move across the whole board. You are global in this standing. You're not necessarily just local. So when you come into certain layers of awareness within yourself, and you have certain layers of understanding of what has been occurring around you because you've awakened, you aren't to perceive your conditioning or your position at a rate with derogatory favor. I'm not going to say, oh, these people are this, these people are that. And the only reason why I wouldn't say that anymore isn't because I'm better or anything like that. It's because I recognize even with the person who felt like they were being in opposition to me, the things that they were doing were only meant to help me. A lot of the times people come against you. I call it the sharpening. They come against you because they want you to be aware. This place you might have felt dulled because you went through a circumstance. You were given an opportunity in the closeness with spirit, in knowing how powerful and how strong you really are, and knowing how much you could actually withstand, and not being in a space where you are not actually in representation of your resilience. A lot of the times people are able to do black magic, witchcraft, um, destiny swapping, so to speak, just because you have to be aware of what it is that you are truly, truly meant to fight for. And if you're not in position, you may not know the thing that people are trying to come up against you for is yours to actually keep. So you might be a pawn on a board where you're supposed to be queen while they're moving and trying to make the steps so they could be queen. You are vacant in your seat, not present within your vessel because you haven't accepted what you understood in your previous, all right? And then you don't want to be in representation of an understanding because it doesn't fit the bill. So when your soul starts to speak to you and give you the messages, you can't really fully align to it because you are allowing your mental plane to be in a space of fear when your true head doctor has to be your heart, because there's a transition that has to occur, an integration that has to occur for you to be fully, fully in alignment with soul and destiny and sacred desires that you are now surrendering to. The truth that I've been in representation of lately has been something that I would say at the beginning of this year that I was being forced into. I wouldn't have previously decided to, go through divorce. I had told myself in the space of, so-called weakness, here I am again, sitting with fear, allowing myself, instead of to take heed of fear, I allowed myself to be foreshadowed in the fear. And it's like at this age, I have a daughter, and I'm now going back out into the field in anticipation that my person would be my person versus me being at a rate to where I would basically stay in something after had already accepted what I understood about the position that I had been in. I allowed myself to honor the space where I understood the truth. A lot of the times we allow ourselves to be in misalignment because we place judgment. I stopped judging myself. I recognize, yes, I love places and people and things that may have never actually been able or capable of loving me. But that doesn't mean that I have to move off of the space that I actually fully was whole in and previously making the decisions that I had made. I get to be continuous in this rate. And I get to recognize that it is because I love myself enough to be in the space where I honor previous understanding. My rate of experience had to be in order for me to understand what it is that I was to gain in the movement that I made. You teach people based off of how you are towards you in the wake of you. I had heard randomly day before yesterday in honor of yours truly departed. And I was like, do they say that at funerals? Like, do they say that when people transition? Um, I was like, and I didn't really know where it came from. And then I was sitting and I was meditating and I'm writing down, and spirit used it as a rate of me basically being aware of my exit and how it has an impact, and not being in a space to fear me going into the new space because I was understanding that the hand that was being dealt is the hand that God dealt. And when you had God as your dealer, you recognize that you're fated for a destined position that you may have not necessarily been able to perceive because you were showing up in a position that didn't fit you because you weren't willing to actually wear the crown that suited the throne that you were meant to sit in, because this is what your inner self has aligned to because you've healed at a certain rate to connect to your soul. A lot of us aren't always chosen, but we choose based off of what we may on a physical rate desire, yet we don't fully understand because we choose to judge ourselves 2444. We choose to judge ourselves based off of a desire to make things make sense on the physical rate, off of what we could perceive. We aren't always meant to see and know everything, yet we can understand the truth in being what we will become because we are in our present now. It sounds crazy, but for those who are meant to really, really process this, it's something that you've been working through. It's a rate of you that you've been desiring to experience. Sometimes you're desiring the physical thing to come first, and you don't recognize the blockages that you've allowed yourself to be calcified in. Sometimes there's some walls that have to be broken down within you in order for you to reprogram, some pathways that have to be, cemented in order for you to recognize that what you are remembering about yourself based off of what you are teaching you in this center stage position that you've now taken, while you allow yourself to be at the rate of understanding that you have accepted within you, honoring what you previously decided, you get to now be whole in everything that it is that you're doing. So I don't have to 411, 441. I don't have to position myself at a rate in dispute. I don't have to constantly want to trigger certain race within other people because I feel like they're a nuisance to me. I don't have to label the pine as that bitch thinking that she's coming towards me in a rate to be in opposition of me, even if she believes that she's coming towards me at a rate of opposition. I get to be whole in this and I get to have understanding and awareness. Oh, she has purpose, beloved. She came because she was meant to actually be the thing that would always sacrifice herself for me because I'm the queen on this board. The way that I move has to be bigger and more grander than the things that are before me. And it isn't because of better or worse. It is because of position and posture. It's because of what's necessary. Everybody has purpose. Everybody has purpose. And when we honor those spaces, we get to be at a rate to where we're capable of honoring ourselves. And we don't have to be in spaces that a lot of the times, if you fully in position of you can't be in. You can't really, really sit with envy or jealousy or are desiring to even gossip on other people. You can't really be infatuated with what other people are supposedly doing against you because you recognize how spirit always intended for them to do what they were doing. They were supposed to do that, and the closeness that you have with source, it shows itself when you get to the space where you receive the hand that God dealt. You don't know what it is that you are going to receive on the other side, but on the other side is something that you really, really can't fully fathom until you allow yourself to release what it is that you've passed judgment on based off of fear that you allowed to foreshadow in your memory. You allowed your memory to be clocked and piled up on each other, not able to actually sustain itself. Memory is like a floating room, y'all. 444. I see it as this floating room, y'all, that's like in this spiral. Detached from this space. I'm not shackled down by one memory or the other. Some places may have wanted me to be shackled down. My hometown may have decided I don't get to be anything other than Jamie from Penway. I don't get to be anything other than the word girl that stayed off to herself, even though so many people wanted to be in connection. I don't get to be the thing that I am due to what other people have perceived me as based off of what they believed was an opposition or an opponent or a failure or an experience that they wanted me to be permeated in. When in truth, I was always in route to, in position to the thing that I was fated and destined for, which is the hand that God held. And a lot of the times we don't allow ourselves to be in sacred receipt of those sacred desires because we are sitting in shadow instead of allowing ourselves to be seated in soul. Surrender to your inner teacher by fully accepting what you understand in your vessel. My body had to accept that my baby's transition for a reason, irregardless of whatever spiritual thing was occurring that I was privy to. Because I allowed myself to fully accept the lessons that I was being taught, I had an ability within the Reiki, I'm going to say it, that was performed, all right, to be able to release certain rates, to remove certain strongholds, to go through certain ancestral healing that allow certain pathways to now open up. And I could feel parts of my body, good God, that I have not felt in so long. Movements that I haven't been able to experience, an ease within me, a temperance within me that goes against the thing that other people may have desired for me to be at. A lot of people may sit in your 7 wondering how it is that you still got your head up. Why you look so good when I'm sending so much ugly magic towards you? Why you keep on showing up? You don't got no acne on your skin. A lot of people don't recognize the things that they desire to cast on you is only their positioning to be in acceptance of what they will understand in the wake of you, in the absence of you, in your departure to your grand scale. A lot of y'all moving to a bigger board. You've been in this small pond when you were always meant to actually be on a world stage, and you don't allow yourself to get beyond this small pond because you've allowed yourself to be the small deal instead of the big deal that God would desire for you to have. But you are destined for this space. You are soul aligned for this space. You were healed according to the rate that you are meant to receive, and you shall receive it. This isn't just a preference that you're desiring for. This is a sacred desire, and you've allowed yourself to be at rate and in alignment with your heart, and it's speaking truth to you. And if you don't show up in awareness of the things that you understand, not wanting to understand the truth that you've now gained, you'll be in confusion, wanting to base yourself off of remorse and resentment of previous decisions that you made whole within yourself. And you allow yourself to be at a rate to where you continue to make whole decisions based off of where you're standing at. The one who's deciding today can't be the one who decided yesterday. So your now could never judge previous, because previous is never capable of having the full sight that now has. But now doesn't know what is to become. Yet in the present moment, all things exist. And if you're in wholeness, you get to be in representation of that. So it'd be better for us to be present within ourselves. And if you're present within yourself, you're in company of your inner standing, which is your inner teacher, your inner light, your inner compass, your inner specs. You have the ability to have sight, vision, clarity, foresight, foreshadowing, a lot of things that a lot of people would like you to be situated in fear of, that you don't have to be in fear of anymore. Fear is only there to warn you. It is, hey, I'm going to take this pathway from you. I want you to not be this. I'm going to overbear over you. I'm going to keep you from focusing on this. Hey, remember all of these people that left us before? We can't do this. We're going to be alone. It's that thing that wants to hijack your path. And if you focused on the fear that you have of a thing, you sitting in anxiety and anxiousness, you don't allow yourself to move through. But when you get in your inner knowing, you are literally in this space of memory. You just floating. You don't have to be permanent on it. I don't have to know everything all at once. Why? Because anything I am meant to grasp or grab a hold of will present itself to me. And because my hands is clear, my heart is full, and I'm whole, I'm whole in my space. I'm going to take a full step, eager, happy, willingness, able to risk what it is that I'm standing on, knowing that I'm going to have something that's going to catch me on the other side of this. And that's the hand that God dealt. All right. I hope this message is helpful. 3339. I hope whoever needs this message finds it well. You find something in it that you could be able to utilize at this time to help you move through the things that you are processing. Stop being at a rate to where you want to mislabel people, their positioning based off of their steps that they're taking. Don't take offense so much no more to the decisions that people make, because they are in the awareness of themselves and what they've allowed themselves to understand, and their acceptance of what they previously chose. A lot of the times you'll be at a rate to where you get to perceive different rates based off of other people's experiences, and it'd be beautiful. It'd be beautiful. If you made it this far, put 3424 in the chat. All right. Put me some stars in the chat. Let me know that y'all here, that y'all receiving the messages, and continue to move at a rate to where you're becoming aligned with your teacher. All right. Peace. I love y'all.